happiness and literally build a city with it. We're looking at a All right, let's dive into something pretty wild today. We're going to explore a really radical idea. What if joy could be engineered? What if we could take collective happiness and literally build a city with it? We're looking at a philosophy that mashes up theology, engineering, and this incredible ambition of building a handmade future. So let's just start with the big central question. Can a feeling, something as, fleeting as collective joy, actually build something solid, like real physical infrastructure? Can shared laughter literally become an aqueduct?
I know, it sounds impossible, but just stick with me here.
And look, this isn't just some hypothetical thought experiment. The source material gives us this incredible image of a children's game that literally builds infrastructure. It's play, but it's also work. This is that exact moment where a feeling, joy, rhythm, becomes a function. And that idea is the absolute core of what we're talking about today. Right. So this isn't just pretty poetry. This is a foundational principle of a worldview with, well, a bit of a mouthful of a name: joyful Afro-optimist-oriented accelerationism. The core idea is that bliss isn't just a byproduct of a good life, it's the primary construction material. It's the bricks and mortar. Okay, let's just call it JOA for short, way easier. At its heart, it's a serious methodology for taking the highest emotional states a community can have. Celebration, euphoria, pure bliss, and systematically converting all that energy into tangible, lasting things you can touch and use. I mean, you gotta love this phrasing. It's not just building with joy, it's infrastructuring bliss. That word implies that the very structure of a building can hold the memory and the energy of the happiness that created it. That is a totally radical way to think about architecture and our cities. So, if you're going to imagine a whole new world, you can't really use the old words, can you? You need a new language to describe it. And JOA comes with its own lexicon, a whole set of powerful new words that turn these abstract ideas into very concrete actions. First up, joy velocity. Think of it as the engine for this whole system. Instead of measuring progress with things like GDP or stock prices, this worldview measures it by the intensity and spread of collective joy. The happier the community, the faster it actually transforms for the better. And here it is again, that key verb, infrastruct. This is the core action. This is the how-to. It's the real engineering process of turning a feeling into a physical form. This is where the magic really happens, turning something you feel into something you can actually touch. And how incredible is this one? Compost laughter. The idea here is that even the sound of a community's happiness, their shared laughter, has a real material effect, that it can nourish the very ground they live on. It's this beautiful idea that connects human emotion directly to the health of the planet. Okay, so this new language gives us the tools, but what's the deeper belief system that's powering it all? This brings us to the spiritual foundation, the theology that sits right at the core of this entire philosophy. It's called Afrotheopoetics. Now, the key idea here is that divinity isn't some top-down thing, some God looking down from the heavens. Instead, it's found horizontally, right here, on our level, in the stuff of everyday life. The sacred isn't in a cathedral, it's in the soil, it's in the marketplace, it's in the simple act of sweeping the floor. And this quote just brilliantly nails the idea. Theology becomes architecture. Finding the divine isn't about looking up, it's about looking around you at the floor plan of your own community. Holiness is found right there, in the horizontal plane where we all live and share our lives. So how does all this come together? Well, it all builds toward a really specific vision of the future. The goal isn't some distant, shiny paradise. It's a new kind of modernity, one that's built by hand, right here and right now. And that vision has a name: Prometautopianism. Now notice the emphasis on maintained repair and continuous hardening. This isn't about some sudden, perfect future that just appears out of nowhere. No, this is a utopia that's built day by day through the constant, gritty work of upkeep and care. This comparison makes the difference incredibly clear. On the right, you have that typical techno-utopian dream of disruption, breaking things, escaping to Mars. But Prometopianism, on the left, is the complete opposite. It's all about repair, endurance, and staying put to make things better. It values the calloused hands of maintenance way more than the abstract dream of a quick technological fix. So the goal really is to weave the wisdom of the past right into the innovations of the future, to re-ancestor innovation. And crucially, to make hope Not just some passive feeling you have, but a habit you perform. It's a muscle you build through the daily routine of creation and repair. Now, I know this all sounds beautiful and maybe a little poetic, but it's not just a collection of nice ideas. It's designed to be a coherent system, held together by a really rigorous underlying structure, like an engine that keeps everything in perfect balance. It's called the delta T-squared framework, which stands for double transverse transjective quadratic. Yeah, it's a mouthful for sure, but its function is actually pretty simple. It's a four-axis system that provides balance, making sure every part of this project works in harmony with everything else. So let's break it down really fast. First, you have the ultra axis. That's the spiritual part, finding the divine in everyday stuff. Then there's the extra axis. That's all about community and relationships, how we work together. The meta axis is like the system's brain, making sure all the ideas actually hold together. And finally, the intra axis. That's about our personal, lived experience, which keeps the whole thing grounded in reality. So you see, these four axes work together like a gyroscope. They make sure that as this society accelerates through joy, it doesn't just spin out of control. It remains whole, it remains logical, and it stays deeply, deeply rooted in the community. Which brings us right back to this. This is really the ultimate takeaway. In this worldview, hope isn't something you just wait around for. It's something you build. It's a daily practice. It's an infrastructure you create with your own two hands. A muscle that gets stronger every single time you choose to repair something, instead of just throwing it away. And so we end right where we started, with a question, but this time it's for you. If collective joy can be a building material, if hope can literally be an infrastructure, what are you building with yours?